Hi, friends. We're so glad you're here. The Big Ideas podcast exists to empower the next generation of entrepreneurs. Join us for unscripted conversations while you're at home with your kids or even just driving them around to activities. We hope these short but powerful messages will give you inspiration and encouragement for your next big ideas. Welcome back to the show, friends. We are super pumped, of course, to be back with you. Happy summer. I think we're about rolling into summer now. We officially are here in our household, so that's exciting. But for today's episode, I have a really fun plan with my son, Gavin, with y'all today. Gavin is my 10-year-old who just finished up his spring baseball season, and it was just such a winning season, not just for scoring, but also just from lessons learned and so much value that he got out of it. And I just thought it would be a really fun episode to let him kind of share with all of y'all. I know in our town, baseball is a big, big thing. And I know a lot of our listeners play baseball or have a brother who plays baseball. And so I know a lot of y'all can probably relate to this. And honestly, before we get started and really even like diving into this, a huge disclaimer is that we are not baseball experts. I would probably not even consider us a baseball family, although I'm probably just kind of in denial at this point. For any of y'all who know me, know that, well, we have 5 kids. And so I've never been the parent that has said, like, my kids need to do every activity under the sun because I need one more thing to drive them to. And so over the last many years, I have not really made it a big deal for Gavin to get super involved in a lot of organized sports, even though he's incredibly athletic. And it just kind of became very, very obvious in the last year and a half that he has just some real strong, like natural baseball athletic abilities with just his arm strength and his running speed and all of that, just power. And so last summer really is when it kind of just hit all of us like, what are we doing? Why are we not letting him pursue like an organized baseball experience, especially for the team sports? As many of y'all know who grew up playing team sports, I know I did. I pretty much played every sport under the sun. And so the team camaraderie and all the things that go along with learning to play a sport with a team is just so valuable. And so it just really became really obvious that we don't want him to miss out on this great experience. And so I say all that to say we are not coming at you like we know everything about baseball. We've been playing for 2 seasons now, and let me tell you everything we know. Like, that's not at all what this podcast is about. It's simply just to maybe just, share our experience and just see a lot of y'all like high-fiving and nodding like, yes, we get that. We see that. We get that too, because like I said, I know there's a lot of us that are playing baseball here in the area. So kind of rolling off of kind of how our family really opened up our eyes to really wanting to get involved in baseball. Let me turn it over to Gavin. Gavin, why don't you say hey?
Hi.
And so Gav, thinking back to last summer when you were still kind of on the fence with wanting to play, like, why don't you tell the listeners like how you were feeling when we were like, hey Gav, do you want to play ball? Like, what were your initial thoughts? What were your initial feelings?
So I felt extremely nervous. So, like I had no clue what to expect because I never played a sport except like camps of basketball or something like that.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you didn't know what to expect. You're definitely nervous. I mean, I think we had some pretty like heart-to-heart conversations. Like, do you remember anything specifically that I said to you in some of those conversations? No.
Oh, really?
So we had a pretty intense moment about like using our gifts, using our talents, not wasting them. Do you remember that conversation? It was last summer, so it's been a while, but I remember specifically that conversation because, and we'll kind of get into this as we talk about the end of his fall season, about what his epiphany moment kind of was. You finally had the courage to start a little pep talk from Dad and I, and you found out a couple friends who were playing that kind of gave you that boost of confidence as well. And tell us about last fall real quick, kind of a recap of what was your team?
It was the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah. And I would say, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like, that was your very first season ever playing baseball. I mean, you'd played in the backyard, you'd played with friends, but you didn't really know too much about the sport itself other than some of the basics, of course. But there was a lot to learn. So I would say the Red Sox season last fall was really just a huge learning curve for you. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that because it was my first season. I had no clue what to expect. I think I've already said that. But...
Yeah. What were some of the things that we kind of laugh at now that you literally had no idea? Like I remember he'd come home from practice. I'm like, how was practice? Or if I was sitting there watching practice, I'd be like, yeah, that was awesome practice. What'd you learn? And what were some of the things that you remember like standing out?
Well, I mostly played outfield because I was not really the best player on my team, but it was still a really fun season, and the coaches were really nice.
Yeah, you had awesome coaches. They were perfect. I mean, this season and last season, I mean, I could not have asked for better coaches for just bringing out the best in you for sure. Okay, but no, I want to get into some of the funny things where you'd come in from practice and be like, "Mom, I hit the ball," or maybe from a game, where it actually mattered. You'd be like, "I hit the ball so many times, it just went behind me every time. Like I got so many hits, it just kept going behind me." I'm like, "Gavin, those are foul balls. Those don't count." And you were so proud of like how hard you'd hit, but they were always foul. And I mean, you had a good bit of strikeouts. You had a good bit of what I honestly kind of think is like the worst way to strike out. I apologize if this hurts anybody's feelings, but like watching the strikes come across the plate, like not swinging and missing, but just like watching them. And also side note, I grew up watching my brother, who is a lefty, play baseball for years. And of course, y'all know I'm super competitive. So I'm like, you can't just watch the ball come across the plate. Like if it's close, you better be swinging. But yeah, I remember the foul balls being a really funny thing because you were so proud of them. And then what was one of your biggest fears, like when you first started playing?
It was probably either like getting hit anywhere on my body because I feel like I got hit at least a few times in both of my seasons I've been playing.
Yeah, and when you're saying hit, like nobody's hitting you, you're talking about getting hit by the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the pitcher like throwing a crazy pitch and it hitting you. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like the ball came at me most of the times than I've ever really hit it, I feel like. Probably not, but it just came at me most of the times. But
yeah, and so for those of y'all who aren't familiar with his age group, so as a 10-year-old, he's in, kid pitch and everything. And so but I think it's the first year that a lot of them are playing kid pitch. And so, as expected, the pitchers aren't awesome yet. And so there's a lot of just wild pitches. And so, I mean, he'd be just like so nervous at the plate. And it's probably why he watched a lot of the pitches come across because he was probably just kind of crossing his fingers that he would walk. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, that was last season, but right now I feel like I've gotten way better.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was like night and day going from the fall season to this year. But last thing I want to say about last fall, which was what kind of tied into that kind of hard talk that we had before you actually started playing any baseball, was, what you said about like right now you just said you don't remember me saying, you got to use your gifts and talents. You're so athletic, like you're missing out on the team stuff, but also like you're missing out on like sharing your gifts with a team. And so at the end of fall ball, what do you remember telling me, Gav?
I told Mom, I'm so happy that baseball found me because it's my new favorite sport to play.
Yeah, he was like, "Mom, I'm just so glad baseball found me." And I was like, I didn't, it was one of those, like, I could have said, like, "I told you so," but I didn't. And I just smiled and I was like, but I'm so glad baseball found you too, because, every mom listening to this knows, like, when your child finds something that they love and they've got some talent in that area, it's just such a great feeling of watching them just thrive and just use those talents and just really bring out the best in them. And so when he had that little, like I said, epiphany moment where he's like, "I'm just so glad it found me," I was like, yes, I'm so glad too, bud. And I'm also glad I pushed you a little bit to find that so baseball could find you. Hey friend, I wanted to take a quick pause to ask if you've taken the quiz yet to find out what type of dreamer are you. It's super important to discover what's working for you, but also some things that may be keeping you from really pursuing your greatest purpose. It takes just 2 minutes to find out if you're the skimboarder, the sunbather, the sandcastle builder, or the surfer babe. So jump over to dreamerquiz.com and be sure to share your results and tag me in it. Now back to the show. Okay, so let's roll into this spring season. So what team were you playing for this past season? Just ended last week.
It's the Pirates.
Yeah. And you already kind of mentioned it was kind of like you learned a lot last fall. You didn't learn everything. There's always more to learn. But how would you compare like how you played this season versus fall?
I feel like I've played much, much better than I did last fall. Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of positions were you playing this year?
Mostly either like third base, anywhere infield, like pitcher sometimes. Mostly shortstop because that's where the ball mostly comes.
Yeah, you played a lot of shortstop. You pitched you started a lot of games pitching. And then where was your batting? I mean, I think you struck out a couple times, but you were definitely swinging.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a bad day if they didn't throw you a strike, right? Like you hated to walk this season. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I feel like I've hit at least like 6 home runs in my entire career.
Yeah, this season.
Yeah, this season.
Your career. I love that.
I mean, because I didn't really hit anything last
You got some good hits, but nothing like this year. I mean, like I said, this year you were like, man, I just hope they pitch me some good, like if we had kind of a newer pitcher on the other team and they were just throwing balls, I just knew, I'm like, don't swing at them, Gavin. They're terrible pitches, but I just knew like I could see you itching to just swing because you really, I mean, you practiced a ton and you went out there to hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Batting is at least my favorite thing to do.
Yeah. And where did you bat? Where were you in the lineup for spring ball? Typically.
Like, I feel like I was first at bat like 2 times, but mostly fourth because if like, let's say bases are loaded, then the coach knows that I've hit a lot of home runs. So then it's like, what is it called again?
A grand slam?
Yeah.
Oh, the cleanup hitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, you were the cleanup hitter, that was really, really fun. You got a lot more playing time this season. You had an incredible team. Why don't you go ahead and just spoiler alert, tell us what was the finale? How did your team end this season?
Oh yeah, we won the championship and all the playoffs. Well,
that's how you got to the championship. Yeah.
And we got a gold ring of
for winning the championships. Yeah, that was exciting. So and we didn't mention this, but your fall team, like I said, it was exactly where you needed to be. It was exactly who you needed to be with. Baseball found you that season, but did you have a winning record for when you played for the Red Sox?
No, we won at least like 1 or 2 games.
Yeah. So it wasn't necessarily about just the scores and winning. I mean, it was definitely fun to win those games. But at the end of the day, you were so excited to come back and play again. It wasn't because of the winning record or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I mean, there are so many highlights. There's so many core memory moments, like he mentioned, those home runs, all the sportsmanship lessons, just cheering on the other team, not being a show off, like cheering on your team even when you're down. Gav, you were telling me before we started recording, there are definitely some moments where you had maybe a bad play, like you're playing shortstop and the grounder gets past you, or you overthrow to first, or you walk somebody when you're pitching. It was not a perfect season by any stretch. And so what kind of things would you do? Maybe even give us some examples, but what kind of things would you do to kind of get yourself back in the game, get your head back in the game?
Well, mostly if there's ever a game, always get good sleep because I had to miss out pitching twice because I had a headache and I was really tired and hungry and it was really hot. And
yeah, we had a couple conversations where his coach would ask him to pitch or tell him he was pitching and Gavin would be like, oh, no, thanks. I don't feel good today. And I'm like, Whoa, this is what we don't do. We don't let our team down. We are going to show up to play when you get that opportunity. So yeah, definitely good lessons there. But like when you're in the moment and you're in the game, let's say, you're playing shortstop and you overthrow to first and the runner ends up getting a double just because of the overthrow or something, like a silly error like that. You didn't let it just kind of ruin the rest of the game, right?
No.
So what kind
Well,
of things did you do to kind of get your head back in the game and keep going?
mostly deep breaths, and that helps the most.
Yeah.
And because if you're ever playing, you're just like,
Yeah, so catching your breath. And I mean, your team was awesome at like just the team camaraderie, like the dugout cheering, the like pumping each other, hyping each other up. Um, would you say that played a big part of it too?
yeah.
Yeah. Your team or your coach came out a couple times for like team huddles on the infield, right?
Hmm.
Like so like quick pep talks and things like that. So yeah, so what were maybe some highlights from this season and then we're gonna wrap up with a little finale story.
Um,
Yeah, that's what we're gonna end with. So
okay.
don't say that yet.
Okay. Um, well, batting is my favorite, and
What were we talking about before we started when you were talking about like your friends and being part of a team? What were some of those
yeah.
highlights?
Well, so mostly whenever you get on a team, it's like the easiest way to make friends just because you end up talking to them at least once, twice.
At least once. I would hope so.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I made a lot of good friends on that team.
Yeah, that's always one of the saddest things, right? What?
Especially leaving all of them
Yeah, what were you saying? The worst part about the end of the season?
is just leaving everyone.
Yeah, and what do you not want to happen next season?
Leaving everyone.
Well, yeah, but remember you were talking about like what if I'm playing against?
Oh, yeah, I don't want to play against them.
Yeah, but it's gonna happen. I mean, we can make all the requests we want, but teams form how they're supposed to form, right? So, but yeah, I'm so glad he's gotten that team aspect, winning together, playing hard together, overcoming. Um, you mentioned the championship game. I mean, oh my goodness. For any parent that has sat in the stands and watched a close game, back and forth, back and forth. The final score was 16-15. So to give you an idea of how exciting the game was, I mean, they were runs scored every inning. It was back and forth every inning. It was intense. And so, yeah, just winning together as a team, having that commonality, and just knowing that you guys worked together and you guys all gave your best to bring home that gold ring. Okay, so you're excited to play again.
Yes.
So why don't we wrap up this podcast with a little story, because you did mention in a previous podcast when we were talking about our daily habits, make sure you guys listen to that episode, winning habits. But you shared a quote from Babe Ruth. You did a little study on him this past school year. What was the quote that you shared about Babe Ruth?
It was never let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game.
Yeah. And did your knowledge and just kind of experience with learning about Babe Ruth and kind of feeling like you're in his shoes a little bit this baseball season, like how did that affect your playing time?
Well, now that I can actually hit home runs, it's really fun. Now that I'm actually good at the sport.
Yeah.
And Babe Ruth hit 700 something
Yeah, it was like
home runs.
714, I think.
Yeah, something like that in his entire career.
Yeah. Yeah, we'd have a lot of times when he'd go up to bat and I'm like, show me that Babe Ruth, super cheesy, but he knew what I was talking about. Okay, so share with everybody who does not know about Babe Ruth. Tell everybody a quick version of the story about his called shot. Tell us about that historic moment from Babe Ruth.
Yeah, so he was up to bat. It was a full count, 2 outs, 2 strikes, 3 balls. And
It was a World Series.
yeah, before
Yep.
the final pitch came, he lifted his bat and pointed past center field. And then right as the ball came, he hit it and it soared across the air like a bird and out of the field, exactly where he had pointed. It's really cool.
Yeah. So the called shot is what it's called now. And so they never, nobody's really determined if it was obviously just a coincidence and he just happened to hit a home run right where he pointed, or, something else. And so, Gav, why don't you, I mean, I could tell the story, but I think it would be more fun if you did tell the story about your called shot moment.
Kind of.
You kind of. I mean, you didn't point the bat out there,
Yeah.
but you definitely. What did you say? And then how did that
Yeah.
that batting play out?
So before before I came up to bat, I told everyone on my team it would rather be better to hit it to first than get a walk to first, just because you at least hit it.
Yeah.
And I told them I'm gonna hit a home run, and so whenever it was like 2 outs, 2 strikes, 3 balls,
Yeah.
I hit it.
Yeah. Bottom of the last inning.
Yeah.
Full count.
And then how it soared across the air past left field, center field, in the middle of that or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I went past shortstop. It was like a big old, like, powerful, like, line drive over everybody's head.
And yeah, it was really cool.
And was it a home run?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think bases were loaded, but I think there were 2 on base.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was somebody on second and third, and everybody came home. So it was like, oh my gosh, Gabby, you totally just did a called shot. Like, it was so cool. How did you feel in that moment?
I felt so happy. It was so cool.
Yeah. And I think you slid into home. Like, I mean, it was like kind of close at the end there, but I think you got a reputation for having some speed. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not just out in the crowd like, do you guys see how fast I go?
No, like his coaches would always like, no, like, hey, you can steal this. You can go home. Like you'll make it. So yeah, he had his called shot. It was a really cool kind of full circle moment of studying Babe Ruth, respecting his baseball career, and then kind of having a moment like that just kind of felt just as epic for Little League. And so, yeah, anything else you want to add that you think your listeners would love to hear about your baseball, or what you're excited about for next season?
I'm just excited not really excited to leave my entire team again, but everything else I'm excited for.
Yeah. We're going to do some summer camps at DBAT and keep yourself in shape and improving those skills as we go. So just get better and better, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we have definitely enjoyed sharing with you guys. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Would you please take a moment and subscribe to our podcast? And even better, would you guys comment or message me and let me know what you're getting out of this episode? Specifically, if you have somebody playing baseball and anything that anything that your child or children got out of this episode, we'd love to know that. We'd love to share that. And we just can't wait to talk again and bring you more fun content from each of our kids. Oh, and Gavin's got one more thing he wants to add.
Every like, comment, and subscribe this video gets, that's how many home runs I'll hit next season.
Oh, okay. That's fun. That's awesome. I love that, Gav. Yeah, let's do that. That'd be amazing. So however many home runs you guys want him to hit, it's up to you. It's all in your hands. All right, guys, we will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks again for listening, friend. We would love to hear what is really speaking to you in today's episode. It means so much to us, and we would love for you to take a screenshot of you listening to our podcast, share it on Instagram and Facebook. Definitely tag me in it so I can reshare it. Our kids especially really love hearing what you're getting out of our show, so it really means the world. Thanks again for joining us.